Welcome to the Deconstructionist Deep Dive.
The podcast that doesn't just accept the story.
We break it
We examine the pieces.
and expose the machinery inside.
Let's dive in.
What if everything about the battle of the sexes isn't just wrong, but is designed to be wrong? So that's the big question we're diving into today. And wow, the source materials you sent us on this, they were intense. Really like an architectural blueprint.
Not just articles, but a whole system laid out. An ideological framework designed to paint human connection purely as, well, a power struggle. It's dense stuff.
It really is.
Yeah.
Intricate. And you can see how it's engineered to just stick in your mind.
Yeah, the sources gave us this logical dependency map. We can literally trace it. Starts with these core beliefs, the foundational axioms.
Right.
Then moves to the conclusions about how people should act, the derived conclusions.
Okay.
And finishes with these, like, rhetorical shields, ways to block any criticism, the defense mechanisms.
Our mission today, then, is pretty surgical. We're not here to get into the politics or, the feelings around it. We're aiming to be that immune system for the mind against this kind of structure.
Taking the scalpel to it.
Exactly. We're dissecting the logic, finding where it breaks down the critical failure nodes, and crucially, showing how these supposedly modern ideas are often just echoes of really old power dynamics, just dressed up differently. It's about seeing the system.
That's it. We're looking at how this ideology frames everything, loyalty, love, self-worth, through this really narrow, kind of toxic lens of conflict, inequality.
So where do we start?
We have to start at the base, the foundation this whole thing is built on.
Okay, let's unpack this blueprint, level 1 in its defense strategy. This is where it tries to sound legit, using what it calls empirical claims.
The science-y sounding part.
Yeah. And the absolute cornerstone, the foundational assumption for everything else, is what the sources call the biological determinism framework. This is the core lie, really. It sets up everything that follows as just cold, hard reality.
Objective truth, supposedly.
Right. And what's the main pillar holding that up?
That would be the gender hierarchy axiom. Node 1 in our map.
Node 1. Okay. And what does that say?
It just states it flat out, no room for doubt, that women are fundamentally, biologically, mentally, and in terms of capability, inferior to men.
Wow. Straight out the gate.
It's the starting gun. If you, the believer, just accept that premise, one group is just less than everything else, all the conclusions about how people should behave, how value works, the need for control, it all suddenly seems logical. Justified, even.
And the trick is framing it as science, not opinion.
Exactly. Not a self-serving belief system, but how things are.
And looking at that with the wider lens, how does that biological claim immediately jump to, well, ideas about value? Economics, almost.
It's immediate. The second you establish inferiority, the system has to assign value differently, and that's where we get the value assignment theory, which honestly is built on this fundamental contradiction, almost designed to self-destruct or at least cause damage.
The value dichotomy falsehood. You said it harms both sides.
Oh, absolutely. It's kind of brilliant in how it manages to inflict psychological pain on both men and women, just in different ways.
Okay, break that down. How is value assigned here?
So for women, this is Node 3 value is defined as inherent, based on looks, youth, sexuality, stuff you're sort of born with. But, and this is the key, this value depreciates.
Like a car.
Exactly. It's a perishable good, ticking down from day one. Now, contrast that with men's value Node 4. That's defined as earned.
Earned how?
Through utility, achievement, status, what you do. But, and here's the flip side, this value is precarious. It can vanish overnight. Lose your job, make a social mistake, boom, value gone.
So one is inherent but fading, the other is earned but unstable. That sounds exhausting.
It is. And think about who benefits. It's not the individuals. It's the ideology itself.
How so?
The sources point directly to the psychological impact. It creates this constant gnawing performance anxiety in everyone. Men feel like they're on this endless treadmill, like gotta keep achieving, providing, because their worth isn't really theirs. It's just rented based on performance. Fear of falling behind.
Okay, I see that. And for women?
It's a race against the clock, right? Trying to leverage or protect this asset, their youth, their looks, that's inevitably fading. It fosters this deep fear of aging, of becoming irrelevant.
Wow, so it's a closed loop. Neither side can ever really feel secure or, like, intrinsically valuable.
Precisely. And the power source for this value system, the sources explicitly name it, the capital patriarchy alliance. It uses the language of markets and economics to justify what is essentially systemic inequality.
So this dual anxiety, this constant pressure that feeds into the next piece, right? The life difficulty disparity, node 5.
Exactly. This is the idea, the belief that women have life on easy mode.
Easy mode.
Yeah. Like they get built-in support, societal advantages just for being women. While men, they're out there in the jungle, the harsh meritocracy, dog eat dog.
And that belief is critical, isn't it? It seems like the justification for, well, for a lot of the controlling stuff that comes later.
Absolutely critical. It's the why. It provides the moral cover. If you believe one side has it easy, is maybe even cheating the system.
Then the harsh rules seem fair.
Exactly. The transactional demands, the often punitive rules for relationships later on, they don't feel like cruelty. They feel like balancing the scales. Necessary control. Compensation, almost.
It sets up this invisible debt. The man feels like he's owed something, respect, obedience, whatever, because he's fighting the hard battle, while the woman is just coasting on looks that won't last anyway.
And if you buy into that initial premise, you've already accepted the power struggle. You've accepted the moral justification for the inequality.
The dependency map really shows how crucial these first 5 points are. Axioms 1 to 5. The non-negotiables.
And if you can successfully deconstruct those, especially that biological determinism in node 1 and the whole value dichotomy in 3 and 4, the rest of it, the behavioral rules, it just starts to fall apart.
The foundation crumbles. Okay, so once someone's accepted this foundation of inferiority and debt, where does the ideology lead them next? The anxiety's there. Now what?
Now come the rules, the behavioral prescriptions, managing that anxiety through control, right? So once you accept those axioms as like fundamental truths, they immediately get translated into these really rigid rules how you must behave, especially around core human things like loyalty, commitment.
We're moving from the abstract theory into the practical rulebook.
Exactly. And the first big one, probably the most recognized, is the hypergamy principle. That's node 8.
Hypergamy, the idea that women are always looking to trade up.
Essentially, yes. It's the conclusion drawn from female inferiority and that depreciating value we talked about. The logic goes, women are inherently disloyal, always scanning for a better deal, a higher status partner, hardwired for it.
Okay, and that connects to how loyalty itself is defined differently.
Oh, definitely. This is where loyalty gets split right down the middle. It feeds into node 7, the differential loyalty principle.
How so?
Male loyalty in this system gets defined by what men do. Provide, protect, it's active, you can measure it, utility. Female loyalty, it's defined purely by what they don't do. Specifically, sexual exclusivity, it's passive, internal limitation.
Notice the difference there. One definition requires constant external action achievement. The other demands internal restraint, basically.
And the system conveniently lets men define their worth through doing stuff out in the world, while demanding women's worth stays focused purely on, well, sexual fidelity and relationship limitations.
It's a neat trick.
It gets reinforced further by node 6, the monogamy fallacy.
Which says
that monogamy is biologically unnatural, but conveniently only for men.
Selective determinism. Biology forces men to roam, but forces women to stay put.
Pretty much. It's a classic example. Biology dictates male behavior needs to be dynamic, allows for, let's call it sexual freedom. But that same biology demands strict, maybe even unnatural, compliance and sexual limitation from women.
It's a massive contradiction. How does that even hold together?
Only because of the power assumptions made right back in the axioms. The system needs men to be both biologically driven by their need for status and biologically free sexually, depending on what suits the hierarchy at that moment.
Okay, so the rules are set. How does this dictate the actual structure of relationships? You mentioned a transactional model, node 11.
Yeah, this is where it gets really stark. The prescribed relationship dynamic.
And the sources were clear on this.
Oh, incredibly blunt. The ideal relationship, according to this framework, must follow an employer-employee dynamic, or, even more intensely, a king-subject dynamic.
Wow. Not a partnership, a command structure.
Absolutely. And that rigid hierarchy that's explicitly linked in the sources to feudal power dynamics.
Feudal, like lords and serfs.
Essentially, yeah. Fixed roles, obedience expected, security traded for control. It's like serfdom. But instead of farming, the currency is maybe emotional labor, obedience, exclusivity.
That's a chilling comparison.
It fits, though. And think about how Node 9, opinion invalidity, slots right into that.
Women's opinions are invalid.
Malleable, lacking intrinsic value. That's the conclusion. Why? Well, in that employer-employee model, does the employee dictate company strategy? Does the subject tell the king how to run the kingdom?
No, of course not.
So the system is designed to create relationships where only one side's perspective, strategy, opinion actually counts.
Okay, but forcing that kind of hierarchy, it must require some way to distance yourself emotionally, right?
Yeah.
To enforce it without feeling bad.
It absolutely requires dehumanization. Maybe subtle, maybe not so subtle. It's the grease that makes the control mechanisms work without jamming up your conscience.
And the sources called this out specifically.
Yes, as a secondary control mechanism. Node 14 is the prime example. The used car analogy.
Comparing women to used cars.
Yeah. Depreciating assets. Things you try to get maximum value from before they, expire or break down.
That's pretty bleak.
It is, but think about the function. If you can genuinely see another person as an asset, as a thing.
They become disposable.
Exactly. The sources say it enables discardability by stripping personhood. And that phrasing isn't accidental when you look at the historical parallel.
You mentioned historical parallels. Like what?
Well, if you strip away the modern dating lingo, the underlying logic, how you assess value, utility, lifespan, obsolescence, it's disturbingly similar to language used in systems of actual ownership. The sources point directly to slavery property assessment language.
Seriously?
Yes. Evaluating a human being based on their utility, their projected usefulness, when they'll become worn out. It's an ancient control tactic for treating people as objects, just, repackaged for the 21st century using market terms, sexual market value, whatever.
So let me trace that logic. Axioms 1 to 5 build the unequal foundation. Conclusions 6-11 dictate the controlling behaviors within that unequal system. And dehumanization, like Node 14, provides the emotional shield needed to actually do those things without feeling cognitive dissonance.
You got it. You can't feel bad about trading in a used car. Okay, so we've got the blueprint, built on shaky logic, contradictions, anxiety. So how does this thing survive? How does it spread? That brings us to the third piece, the rhetorical defense mechanism.
The immunization strategy, how it protects itself.
Exactly. This is level 3, and it's all about emotional manipulation, silencing dissent before it even gets going.
How does it do that? What's the first line of defense?
It's Node 19. The objective reality claim. This is critical. It takes all those axioms, all those personal self-serving beliefs we just talked about, and insists they are verified, unshakable, scientific, biological fact. It asserts authority. End of discussion, almost.
So this isn't my opinion. This is just how the world is.
Precisely. And if you dare question that authority...
Then what?
Then comes Node 20. Criticism and validation. The ultimate shield. Any disagreement, any counter-evidence, any alternative view, it gets instantly dismissed. Pathologized, even.
Yeah.
The system tells the believer, oh, that person disagreeing, they're just emotional, or they're delusional, or they're brainwashed by feminism society, whatever. Basically, the challenger is deemed incapable of seeing the hard truth.
So you can't even have a rational argument. If I critique the system says my critique just proves I'm flawed or biased.
You got it. It's a closed loop, a linguistic fortress. You never actually have to engage with contradictory information. Your urge to critique becomes proof for the system, not against it.
Wow. And that connects to emotional control within the system too, right? The vulnerability prohibition, Node 10.
Directly. This is the conclusion that if a man shows emotional vulnerability, fear, sadness, confusion, it instantly destroys female respect and attraction. Permanently.
That sounds like more than just dating advice.
Oh, it's way more. It's a core command. It reinforces that king-subject dynamic. The king can't show weakness, right? Or the peasants revolt.
What's the psychological impact of demanding that level of emotional suppression?
It's profound. By forcing men to push down all that messy stuff, fear, loneliness, self-doubt, it actively creates individuals who are isolated, emotionally stunted, and often prone to rage.
Why rage?
Because if you can't process difficult emotions healthily, internally, or with a partner, they have to go somewhere, often outwards as aggression, or inwards as rigid control. You're only strong if you're numb detached, which ironically makes you easier to control by a rigid external ideology.
Because you don't trust your own feelings.
Exactly. The historical parallel cited is the Spartan soldier ideal. Highly controlled, built for obedience, suppress the individual for the state. The system tells you, your feelings are unreliable, messy, trust our cold, hard rules instead.
Control through manufactured isolation.
Okay, but you said the architecture is faulty, the scalpel can find the flaws, the critical failure nodes. Where does this system actually break down? It's riddled with them. Let's start with node 3, that value aesthetics claim for women. Call it the reductive fallacy.
Okay. How does that feel?
The counter-evidence is overwhelming, even if the goal is stable relationships. If female value is purely looks and youth, the ideology completely ignores what actually builds lasting connections, like partnership value, intelligence, emotional maturity, shared goals, empathy. Study after study shows these things are the bedrock of long-term success, not just fleeting attraction. It undermines the core value claim.
Makes sense. What else?
Then there's the predictive failure. This targets the transactional model itself, Note 11. The ideology says the employer-employee or king-subject dynamic is the only way to guarantee order, the functional ideal.
But the data doesn't back that up.
Not at all. Sociological data consistently shows the opposite. Egalitarian relationships where power is shared, roles are flexible, vulnerability is safe, they show much greater stability. Higher satisfaction, lower dysfunction like domestic violence.
So the prescribed ideal actually leads to less stability.
Measurably so. The system's claim to being the practical, functional way fails when you look at real-world outcomes.
Okay, that's a big one. Is there a deeper structural flaw?
I think the deepest is the logical contradiction right at the heart of the value dichotomy itself, nodes 3 and 4.
The inherent but depreciating versus earned but losable thing.
Exactly. Think about it. If men's value is earned but always at risk, and women's value is inherent but always fading, the entire system is designed for fundamental, perpetual instability.
Two different hamster wheels, both equally stressful.
Right. Constantly proving yourself or protecting yourself in a system designed to deny you any kind of stable intrinsic worth. The ideology tries to fix insecurity with rigid rules, but it just amplifies the insecurity for everyone caught in it. It generates constant value anxiety. And to really grasp this ideology, you have to see it's not new. It's old power grabs, just repackaged. If we pull back that wider lens, the origins get really clear. The sources call these the power structure mirrors.
Okay, so node 1, female inferiority. That idea of an arbitrary, unquestionable hierarchy. What's the historical mirror for that?
It's almost a perfect match for the divine right of kings.
How so?
That doctrine said the king's power came straight from God, so it was sacred, absolute, couldn't be questioned. Didn't matter if the king was smart or dumb, good or bad. The hierarchy was just divinely ordained. Female inferiority functions the same way here, like divine right of men. Authority based on birth, not merit.
Wow. Okay, and the economic engine. The earned versus inherent value split?
That strongly echoes hypercapitalism, but specifically the cultural side effects of the Protestant work ethic.
Interesting. Connect those dots.
That ethic, taken to an extreme, basically moralizes inequality. It teaches that striving, suffering through hard work, achieving external success, that's virtuous, spiritually blessed even. So if the man is fighting the harsh meritocracy, suffering and striving,
he's morally superior.
And therefore justified in his control, his higher status. While the woman, benefiting from inherent traits like beauty, well, she's morally suspect, maybe lazy, cheating the system, it justifies the disparity.
Okay, which leads us back to the relationship model, the employer-employee or king-subject thing.
And that's a direct mirror of feudal serfdom.
Explain that.
In feudalism, you had a strict exchange. The lord offered protection, land access. The serf gave loyalty, labor, obedience, unquestioning. This modern ideology just swaps the terms. Financial provision replaces protection. Sexual exclusivity and domestic labor replaces obedience and farm work. But the core structure, the dependency, it's identical.
Divine, right. Hypercapitalism, work ethic, feudal serfdom. Once you see those parallels,
it becomes really hard to argue this is all just about objective biology, doesn't it? It looks a lot more like maintaining historical power structures by changing the labels. Testosterone instead of nobility, provider instead of patron.
Yeah. And the claim that this system is universal, dictated by biology for everyone, that gets challenged too, right, by different cultures.
Massively. The sources bring up cross-cultural refutations. Anthropology alone blows a huge hole in it. The sheer diversity of gender roles, family structures, power dynamics across cultures and throughout history, it just flat out contradicts the idea of one fixed biological destiny for relationships.
So biology isn't destiny here.
Doesn't look like it. And philosophy offers powerful counterarguments too, rejecting the whole premise of transactional worth. The sources mention, for instance, Buddhist non-duality.
How does that challenge it?
Well, non-duality often points to inherent Buddha nature or just inherent worth in all beings, regardless of gender, status, what they produce. It starts from a place of universal dignity, which completely undermines the idea of inherent inferiority or value that depreciates based on looks.
The whole system relies on that initial inequality. What about Ubuntu philosophy?
Ah, I am because we are. That perspective directly challenges the hyper-individualistic, scarcity-based model we've been talking about. In Ubuntu, your worth isn't just what you achieve alone, it's tied to the community, to interdependence. It flips the script from competition to mutual reliance.
Very different from the transactional model. And Taoism.
Taoism often emphasizes the intrinsic value of things in their natural state. Just being is valuable. You don't necessarily have to earn worth through constant striving and performance, which is exactly the anxiety fuel for men in this framework we're deconstructing. These philosophies show the Western capitalist patriarchal model isn't a universal default, it's a cultural choice.
Okay, so if it's not universal, not biologically fixed, and demonstrably flawed, why do people buy into it? What's the deep psychological driver? The sources mentioned insecurity projection.
Exactly. That seems to be the core engine. The whole rigid transactional structure seems to function as control compensation.
Compensation for what?
For a deep, perhaps terrifying fear of genuine vulnerability, fear of inadequacy, rejection, failure. If you feel that fear, imposing rigid external rules offers a sense of certainty, control. Even if it's a cold, harsh kind of control, you're outsourcing your emotional safety to the system's rules.
Like intellectual self-medication.
And it often gets tangled up with trauma rationalization. That's level 4 in the defenses.
How does that work?
Someone uses their own painful experiences, maybe feeling ignored, betrayed, marginalized as justification for adopting this harsh worldview.
Yeah.
The thinking goes, the world hurt me, so the world must be cruel and competitive. These rigid rules are the only way to survive, the only way to prevent more pain.
That's dark. It turns personal pain into a reason to embrace a dogma that perpetuates harshness.
Yeah. The trauma justifies the control system, and the control system prevents the vulnerability needed for actual healing, which might expose the system itself as unnecessary. It's a vicious cycle.
Okay, we've taken it apart. The axioms, the rules, the defenses, the historical echoes. So boiling it all down, what is the absolute core falsehood we're looking at here?
I think it's this, that human connection is fundamentally a zero-sum power struggle, and in that struggle, vulnerability equals defeat. That's the poisonous root.
And the entire structure is built to keep that conflict going, right? It can't actually create peace because the conflict is its fuel source.
Exactly. Which leads to the synthesis conclusion, the big takeaway for you listening. This whole ideological building collapses once you shine a light on its foundations.
How so?
Biological determinism isn't science. It's revealed as a historical power grab, justifying old hierarchies. And the transactional models. They don't create the stability they promise. They demonstrably produce dysfunction and instability.
So seeing the lie, that opens the door to something else, an alternative framework.
Yes. The freedom principle, let's call it. And it sounds simple, but in this context, it's revolutionary. Vulnerability isn't weakness. It's not what destroys respect. It's the actual foundation of real intimacy, real strength.
And that's not just feel-good sentiment.
No, not at all. It's backed up. Psychological research on emotional intelligence consistently shows vulnerability is key to resilience in relationships. Sociological data shows egalitarian partnerships are more stable. The evidence points away from the rigid model.
So how do we get to that freedom? What are the cognitive emancipation strategies?
First, you have to consciously reject that transactional definition of worth. The lie that your value is just your looks or your job title or your bank account. You have to embrace inherent human dignity.
Value pluralism, you call it.
Right. Recognizing worth is multidimensional. Intelligence, kindness, empathy, creativity, community contribution, all of it matters. When you stop defining yourself by that narrow, scarce, depreciating value system, you break free from the anxiety treadmill. You stop running the impossible race.
The sources mention practical countermoves too, like focusing on evidence.
Yeah, we need to talk more about what actually works. Highlight the evidence for relationship stability and partnerships based on equality and mutual respect. That data directly counters the necessity of the feudal transactional model.
And specifically for men caught in that vulnerability prohibition.
We have to model and normalize the idea that male vulnerability isn't fatal. It's not weakness. It's actually a cornerstone of emotional intelligence. It's what allows for deep, resilient connections, not prevents them.
So it's a shift from fear and control.
To courage and trust, from scarcity to, well, maybe not abundance, but at least sufficiency, mutual respect.
The end goal, then, isn't about winning the battle of the sexes.
Not at all. The goal is to see the framework itself, the whole toxic architecture that defines human connection as a battle, and reject it entirely.
You can't win a rigged game.
Exactly. The only winning move is to refuse to play by those rules, to step outside the arena.
It means applying the scalpel to your own beliefs, maybe. Seeing if the foundation relies on those ideas of inferiority or disparity that come from oppression and insecurity, not biology.
And once you see the system, really see it, you gain the power to choose something different. A framework built on dignity, authenticity, and real connection. And that's our deep dive for this week.
Remember, the most dangerous illusion is the one you don't know you're in.
But now you know. So here's our question for you. Where will you see this exact deception playing out in the next 24 hours? In the news, in an ad, in a conversation. Once you see it, you can't unsee it.
Let us know in the comments. Question the narrative. Deconstruct the dogma. See the system.
We'll see you next time. Stay skeptical.